Nano Bushido, the Nanotech Samurai sci-fi series. It was a warm summer evening when two brothers, Jack and David, sat on the porch of their family's farmhouse. They watched as the sun set behind the hills in the distance. Their father, a respected farmer and a loving husband, had just returned from the market with a bag full of produce. It was then that a group of masked men on motorcycles approached the house. The men were part of a notorious gang who terrorized the town and its people. They demanded money from their father, but he refused. In a fit of rage, one of the men pulled out a gun and shot him dead in front of his sons. Jack and David were shattered by their father's death. They knew they had to do something to avenge his murder. They spent the next few weeks gathering information about the gang lord who was responsible for their father's death. They discovered that he was a powerful man who had a network of loyal followers. Taking their revenge would not be easy. Jack and David knew they had to be careful if they were to succeed in their revenge. They planned everything meticulously. They would go after the gang lord's men, one by one, and gather information from them. They would then use that information to get close to the gang lord himself. The first man they went after was a young gang member who was known for his love of drugs. They offered him a deal. They would give him a large sum of money if he could give them information about the gang lord. The man agreed, and they soon had valuable info about the gang lord's whereabouts. They then went after the second man, who was the gang lord's right-hand man. They knew that he was loyal to the leader and would not give up the information easily. They decided to kidnap and torture him until he gave up the location they needed. The plan worked, and they had the gang lord's hideout. It was a dark night with a storm blowing in when Jack and David arrived at his hideout. They knew they had to move fast if they were to succeed. They kicked in the door and went in guns blazing and took out the gang lord's men one by one. They then confronted the gang lord himself. He was a large, imposing man who was not easily intimidated. He laughed at the brothers and told them they would never be able to defeat him. But Jack and David were determined. They fought the gang lord with all their might, and after a long, grueling battle, they emerged victorious. With the gang lord defeated, Jack and David finally had the closure they needed. They knew that nothing would ever bring their father back, but they had succeeded in avenging his death. They returned to their farm, and for the first time in weeks, they felt peace. The town hailed the two brothers as heroes for taking down the notorious gang. They were even offered jobs as law enforcement officers, but they declined. They knew that they had done what they had to do and that they were ready to move on. Years later, Jack and David sat on the same porch where they had sat with their father on that fateful day. They watched as the sun set behind the hills, and they smiled. They knew their daddy would be proud of them.